Thanks for staying with us on Midcap Radar, and as it's Midcap, and maybe we should just start Small Cap Radar because that's where all the activity is. 1% on the small cap. Midcap has given up some of its gains. It was running about 1% about an hour earlier. Now it's just about 0.5%, and the Sensex and the Nifty. If you can just bring up Europe, that may indicate what direction we're taking. Some of the, there you go, so hardly any moves out there. Really, Mahindra has been under pressure for the last 2 or 3 trading sessions, not seen it to go anywhere. Hindalco also under pressure as we speak. Infosys just giving up some of its gains. Well, one of the most interesting turnarounds we've seen is in the prices of aviation stocks, and perhaps backed by the fact that the economies of the industry itself has improved. Sanjay Aggarwal is CEO of SpiceJet, joins us right now. Sanjay, thanks for joining us. I'm going to start out by asking you one particular question. While people say maybe it's saturated or there are too many aircraft, I travel to Bhopal and there are only 2 flights, which means a total of about 400 or 500 people can land up and take away from a city of 2 million people. Some would say India's aviation sector hasn't even started. I mean, are you seeing that kind of demand? And do you think in cities like this, when they go from 500 to 2,000 people taking an aircraft, we should have enough to run 300–400% from where we are?
I agree with you. I think the Indian aviation still has a long road ahead of it. I think it's just the beginning, and I think for the next decade or so, on a long-term basis, I think the industry will see a double-digit growth. And most of that growth will come from the tier 2 cities, because if you look at most of the airlines right now, about 94% or 95% of their revenues are coming from tier 1 cities, which means connecting the 6 metros of the country with the smaller cities. So I think most of the growth that we will see over the next 5 to 10 years would be coming from the tier 2 and the tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Right.
So I think the growth the growth opportunity is there.
Right. Sanjay, now let me ask you this: how are you and SpiceJet going to translate this? Which means, how many parking bays or facilities to land do you have currently? How many have you applied for? It's also a great time to take either a wet or dry lease of aircraft, because the global aviation industry is falling apart. How many are you planning to sign up in the next 3 to 4 months to see how we translate that into actual revenues for companies like yourselves?
Sure. In terms of parking bays, without getting into the specifics, we have 19 airplanes and we have 19 parking bays, with 6 of them. We have pretty much 3 in Delhi, 6 in Delhi, 6 in Bombay, and then 3 each in Chennai. We have 1 in Pune, and they're spread all over. But of course, the parking remains a constraint both in Delhi and Bombay. Not so much in the other airports, other than Pune being an Air Force airport, there are constraints there. But Delhi and Bombay do remain a constraint, and as we bring on new airplanes, to answer the second part of your questions, how many airplanes we are getting, we have currently 4 airplanes that we plan to take delivery of in the next 12 months. And we are looking at adding a couple more if we could find attractive lease terms in the marketplace, which, as you said, with the global aviation kind of falling apart, the demand in India has already started to recover. And for the last 6 months or so, we have seen a 25 to 30% consistent year-over-year growth. And most recently, in the last quarter, we actually even saw the demand exceed the 2007 levels. Which means we had the best quarter in terms of demand in the history of Indian aviation. So, one, it was traditionally the best quarter or the busiest quarter of the year, and that was even combined with the fact that demand was higher than 2007. It was the best ever quarter. So, and we are seeing that trend continuing. We have seen it for the last 6 months. January is booking good. February is booking strong. So based on everything that we are seeing now, it's more than one data point. We have had almost 7 to 8 months of data to see that the demand is continuing to come back. And if demand continues to grow at the same rate as we have seen the last 6 to 8 months, I think the industry will run out of capacity in mid-year this year, which means we would need more capacity to be able to carry the demand.
Give us some numbers, or numbers that you can reveal, really. Sanjay, you were actually net profit positive in your September quarter, or was it the June quarter? I think June quarter.
It was the quarter ending June.
Yeah. So do you think, now that you say that the third quarter has turned out to be excellent in terms of bookings, would you be able to repeat that feat For the full year, would you therefore be reasonably confident now that you have seen, 1 month of, or at least a bit of the fourth quarter, that this could be the operational turnaround year?
I think so. I definitely think so. Based on how the third quarter turned out, I think there is a possibility that we might be able to call it the turnaround year for the Indian aviation. And I can't speak for Indian aviation, but at least for SpiceJet for sure.
Okay, now giving the, on the basis of the way you answered, Ashu, in terms of the growth you kind of see in the second 2 and 3 tier cities, and the plans that you have in terms of probably leasing aircrafts, what is the kind of growth you can look at in the next 2 years? I mean, you are what, 1,200 crore in sales in 09. Where do you see yourself, say, by FY12 end or FY11 end?
See, this year we will finish somewhere around 2,000 crores. This is the fiscal year that will end on 2010. And again, give or take 100 crore here or there, I'm giving you ballpark numbers, with 2 more months to go, I can't be too precise. Excuse me, too precise. But I think, and based on the fleet plan that I explained earlier, that we are looking at adding anywhere between 4 to 6 airplanes in the next 12 months. So if you were to just extrapolate and say, there'll be a 25 to 30% improvement in our revenue line.
Fair point, Sanjay Aggarwal, that looks good. Thanks a lot for joining us with your thoughts. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have to take a look at Infinite Computer Solutions. That's first IPO of 2010 that appears to have brought back margin funding, such as the subscription. We'll give you all those details after this break.